That's Tom. He's a fairly radical administrative guru right there. Okay, let's come on in and have a seat. I want to begin. We're gonna talk for a few minutes about matters of the heart. I want to begin just by sort of just sharing from my heart some of the thoughts and ideas behind this time together, because I know that. May you never be given the task of proposing questions for a group like this. If someone ever says, hey bro, can you write some questions? Say, no thank you, I feel sick right now. I can't do that. The concept of this time together is to pause and evaluate how we're doing as a fellowship. You know, 8 years ago, 7 years ago now, we decided to establish a 2020 vision for every one of our families of churches. And the idea behind that was, well, let's dream about where we want to go. Let's consider where we are and let's dream about where we want to go. And the important thing for us at that moment was most of our churches were not looking forward or dreaming. We were so focused on what we'd just been through that the idea of where were we going wasn't really on the radar of most people. And it was a very invigorating and faith-building and encouraging experience to say, hey, where do we want to go? Let's lift our eyes and dream. Now, 7 years later, 8 years later, what we're saying is let's pause for a second and let's evaluate how we're doing. And there are some folks, I've gotten feedback from different ones. We have meetings with the tribal leaders every night, and we talk about, hey, how does it go? It reminds me of teen camp, okay? And getting with the camp counselors and, hey, how's it going? And wow, we had this issue come up and that, and this thought and this feeling, and but we're making it up as we go along. And some people, I've heard from some people that, well, perhaps there's an agenda, or you're driving in a certain direction, or the questions are funneling you in a certain path. The questions so far have simply followed the presentation, the sort of points or subpoints that were there to consider. You know, we sent out an email that probably most of you got, which said that this wasn't really a time for making decisions. This was a time for trying to find consensus. And that's really what we're looking for. And one of the challenging things about bringing some of the most influential leaders from around the brotherhood is when we all come together, we're accustomed to our vote being more than one. Well. Everybody gets a vote and then we vote. And what we're doing is we're trying to understand one another. We're trying to understand where we are as a fellowship. I don't claim to know what your family of churches is like, or where it's coming from. That's why you're here, to speak and to represent. But we're exploring right now. I sit with all of you and watch to see what the reports say. You know, there's 5 questions. What did people think of delegates? I didn't know what the answer. I was interested. What did they think of service team? I don't know. Well, let's hear what people say. And we see as we watch that there's different perspectives. But I want to reassure you that this is an exploration that we're on together. Amen. And that we're just working together to try to figure out how to do the best that we can do. Amen. You know, when Chris came and shared with us, I think it was Numbers 14, about the older folks getting to the point where God said, okay, I'm done with you. I'll take care of your kids. But you all are going to have a 40-year funeral march, because every single one of you is going to die. Not one of you get two will get in. I always think about kids growing up in that desert, asking the question, what are we doing out here? Why are we walking in circles? Haven't we been here before? Where are we going? And the answer that the parents had to tell the children is, we're staying out here until all of us die, so that you can go in the promised land. Imagine when that last old geezer was the one walking around. Well, I'm still holding on. God, take him now. I want to go to the promised land. That's haunting. That's shocking. And I have a sense, you know, I have a sense that our time is limited. Even when you hit your 40s, you start to figure out your time's limited. Hit your 50s or 60s or 70s, and it's emphasized. We have these meetings, and folks that were here at the last one aren't here at the next one. Why not think? Why not dream? Now, in terms of assignments, I gave myself the worst, which is money. Matters of the heart. So when we start this conversation, I just wanted to bring up my grandson one more time. I thought Roger's picture of that little shark suit, that was really cool. This is Evan at Halloween. He's Yoda, okay? But I want you to know that he's ready to dress down for the party, but he also can dress up. He's ready there. And I heard that Disciples today is going to expand. We're going to get a much better, and they're actually going to have a swimsuit edition, and Evan is ready for that one too. That's a perfect, you can show that at his wedding because it's modest but humorous. He's fired up all the time. Point number one, there's something funny about money. There's something funny about money. Let's go to Luke chapter 12. Luke chapter 12. And we're going to start in verse 32. It says, do not be afraid. Together an event, this is our 9th year. On Good Friday, every year for the last 9 years, from 8 in the morning until 8 in the morning on Saturday, we play for 24 hours. This year there's 50 guys playing. But you know, when you do that, we Skype with the hospital in Cambodia at midnight. You need encouragement at midnight when you've been playing since 8 in the morning. But there's something about sacrificing that changes the way you feel. And the Bible says, in verse 34, for where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. That giving, there's something about giving that changes the way we feel. But you know, there's something really weird about money. And it can divide families. Even the closest people. You know, I was blessed to have Betty Crosby, Joyce's mom, as my mother-in-law. She was one of the 30 would-be disciples. I got my engagement diamond from her. She gave me her wedding ring, and I had it reset and gave it to Joyce as an engagement ring. She was one of the most loving, kind people. She was so loving. But she was a single mom with 5 kids. Her husband died when he was 42, left her with 5 children. Her husband's father was wealthy and left her property that was worth about $6 million. But it made the rest of the family so annoyed that he took care of his son's widow, and she could tell it strained their relationship, and so she gave it all back. Wow, that hit me later on in life. Hey baby, don't do that. She died poor. She died living in our house. But at the end of her life, Joyce's family and my family were like 15 of the 30 would-be disciples. Her family is some of the most kind, loving people. It's the most easy time to be together. But at the end of Betty's life, she had $10,000 left. And it was so interesting to see the effect of $10,000 on that family dynamic. It was the low point relationally. $10,000. Now, it only lasted quickly. There were 5 kids, 2,000, 2,000, 2,000, 2,000, we're done. But money has a weird impact. Money has a weird impact on families. Money has a weird impact on churches. Churches, all for one, one for all, until you get separate budgets. Can I get an amen? Once you get separate budgets, all for one, sort of for all. What do you want with my money? That happens. There's something funny about money. Luke chapter 16 says you can't serve both God and money. Now let me ask you a question. When you think about our fellowship, if you were going to describe the ICOC, how would you describe it? How would you describe our fellowship? For me, we are comprised of self-governing churches, 640 or some number. But we have a lot of individual congregations. Those congregations are organized in families of churches. This is not from our ministries, this was just off the internet, but this is roughly the European family. And there's the Southwest family of churches, there's the C region family of churches, but what we are individual congregations that function in a neighborhood, and when you add all those neighborhoods together, then we have the brotherhood. And these are our mission societies. These aren't our families of churches, but this is our brotherhood around the world. That's what we believe about our fellowship. Amen? Is that how you see it? We have churches that, thanks to the cooperation agreement, function within neighborhoods, and those neighborhoods then function in a broader brotherhood. The question that I'm going to want us to think about today is, when it comes to our treasure, when it comes to our money, how much do we put into our local church? How much into our neighborhood? And how much into the brotherhood? How does it work? Because we all are rejoicing in our global brotherhood, but we have to think about where do we allocate our treasure? Look in John chapter 17. Okay. This one challenges me. John chapter 17. It's very quiet so far.
All right.
There, you're all waiting to see. What are you going to tell us? Of course it's quiet. You haven't said anything. Just showed baby pictures. John 17, verse 20. My prayer is not for them alone. I pray also for those who will believe in me through their message, that all of them may be one, Father, just as you are in me and I am in you. May they also be in us, so that the world may believe that you have sent me. I have given them the glory you gave me, that they may be one as we are one. I in them and you in me. May they be brought to complete unity, to let the world know that you sent me and have loved them even as you have loved me. You know, this is a familiar passage to us. But this is Jesus right at the end. And his prayer is for everybody who believes. He's praying, let them be one. What's your standard of unity for our brotherhood? Is it, let us be one, like Jesus and the Father are one? You ever try to explain the Trinity? Did you ever have a good old sermon? Let me break it all down for you, the Trinity. The teachers are all like, I've done that. It's one of my favorite sermons. The evangelists are like, this is mind-numbing. This is soul and spirit, joints and marrow. Leave it alone. Love God, all right? Let's just get going. It's hard to separate them. It's hard to explain it. And Jesus says, you know what? I want the brotherhood to be like that. It's not just a loose federation. It's perfectly united. Amen. Like, I'm in you, God, and they're in me. I'm in them, they're in you. We're all in it together. Amen. Let me ask you something. Ed Anton, brother pink eye with the stink eye. Ed Anton asked a book, if a book were written in 2050 about us, what would it be? Now let me tell you something. When you look at history of churches, it's a very simple repeating story. The same thing happens over and 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 over, and then it goes again and again and again. And it's a story of tragic division. Zealous Christians, amen, we're going to win the world, and we're against the devil, and we're going to take God's kingdom, and then their attention turns, and they bite and devour one another. If Jesus asks us the question, who do you think this passage is talking about? Primarily. Is this talking about our little church in Boston? Is it talking only about our family of churches? Or is this passage really talking about the fellowship of believers around the world?
Good point.
I believe it's primarily this. But it also has application in the other settings. But if Jesus were to ask me now, because I'm concerned, what will the book be 50 years down the road? Will it be like the Church of Christ that split over everything you can imagine, including how many cups to use during communion? They split over whether you have a kitchen in the building, a piano divided them. Jesus says, my priority, was that your priority? How hard did you try to keep the brotherhood together? Oh, we tried. We had delegates meetings, and we had gatherings, and we did reach. Let me ask you a question. How much of your resources did you devote to building unity? Oh, no, we didn't actually spend any money. Did you have money? Oh, yes, we had money. How much money did you have? Do you mean as a brotherhood? Oh, I don't know, hundreds of millions of dollars. How much did you spend on being united? Sorry, we didn't spend any. Oh, I gave to disciples today. I spent a little. 6 bucks, Roger says. I think in order for us to really consider these things, we've got to open our eyes to the challenges.
All right.
I doubt what I'm saying next will be on any video that will be distributed. But I want to let you know some of the challenges that we have faced. Because one of the things that happens in this sort of a crowd is people say, oh, we're doing okay as a brotherhood, especially if you're in a healthy church or in a healthy family of churches. Then you think, it's pretty good. My worldview, the people I interact with, we're happy, we're harmonious, it's all good.
Yeah, come on, Doug.
Until something like that happened a few years ago, where we had a hope work in India. And one of the directors of one of the orphanages molested a child in the orphanage. Now, some of you are just finding out, I can tell by the groans. But that happened. Now, the Indian leadership got involved. They found out about it. It came to light. They fired that person. They comforted and tried the best they could to encourage the victim. They terminated the person who was involved. But then somebody in the church didn't feel good about the way it was handled. And so they began to ring the bell. There's a problem here, there's a problem here. So what happened? Well, then Hope sent an investigation. And they put the time and effort into an investigation. Well, then the Indian brothers sent another investigation. Then the one brother got so out of hand that the church leaders pulled together and disfellowshipped him. But they did it in an abrupt sort of a way. And then that brother started screaming bloody murder, and then there was another group that came, and another family of children. We're going to launch our own investigation. And then there was another investigation from America. And all of this went on, and it kept the leadership in turmoil for almost 3 years. That's the truth. And some of the Indian brothers were feeling like, back up off us. Get out of our neighborhood. Our elders made a decision. We did this. They backed up. They got humble. People from the outside. We're going to protect the children. It was remarkable. There was this passion. We have to save the children. Close down the orphanage. You know what was amazing? People eventually went to the police in the area. Said, we want to tell you what happened. And the police said, and what did you do? That happened a few years ago. What did you do? They said, we fired the person. They said, then save the children and keep the orphanage open. That happened in our fellowship. I'm not blaming anybody. I'm informing us of the challenge that there is to be united. At the moment, that's Malibu, that's Mongolia. They're in the same family of churches. They are. When you look at Roger's report, Malibu and Mongolia are in the same family of churches. Why is that? Well, because they live in similar accommodations. Why is that? Well, it's because there was division. It's because there was tension. I legitimately have no idea what it's about. But I just know there was tension in Asia somewhere. And people said, I'm not happy here, and I'm too upset, and only people I feel safe with are over there in the Southern California. That's a problem. Who's supposed to deal with that? Who's supposed to deal with it? Nobody. Walter is. When our delegates meet, for whatever we want to say good or bad about delegates meetings, when delegates meetings happen, about 40% of our non-U.S. chairs are empty because of money. And the reason is, if you ask the brothers in India or in Africa, do you want to spend the money to fly your delegate over to the meeting, your third delegate or your fourth delegate or whatever? Or would you rather keep the money and have a youth and family worker all year? 100 times out of 100, they say, we'll pray for y'all. But we glory in our international representation. But when we sit in these groups, we hear from brothers and sisters in other parts of the world who say we don't feel represented. But this has been going on for years. We could solve this. We could fill every one of those chairs. Some of you might be encouraged. They said that was a Trump rally that had all those empty seats. But anyway, some people said that. Definitely, that many missing is no bueno. Okay, so that is not good. That is not good. I found out if I went into his ear and said, he made that face. It was awesome. I got a report not so long ago about a group of evangelists who are praying and fasting on a regular basis that the leadership of their family of churches would be changed. Changed. They're so frustrated. What do we do about that? Tell them, pray, keep fasting. Maybe there will be change. But if we're going to function as a brotherhood, we ought to consider these things. I'll tell you a story. One of our biggest congregations, most awesome, faith-filled, heroic congregations, had one of the most tragic sequence of leadership that I've ever heard of in our fellowship. There were administrators who stole the money out of the retirement accounts of the staff. That's not good. Guillermo knows that. He's all about retirement accounts for staff. There were church leaders who lived luxurious lifestyles. People who were taken out for just flagrant sin. Person after person. Personality conflicts within that church that polarized it to such a level that people said, no, we're in two camps. We got the North team and the South team. That's the way it is. Distrust was so low that in that ministry, no one would even share their contribution results with one another. No one knew what anybody else was giving. It's none of your business. There was so much discouragement that then finally then there was even one more round. And not only that, not only had that church been through all of this jarring heartache, the staff had dwindled. The youngest person on staff was 39 years old. But not only that, the connection with the Mission Society had been strained because the Mission Society had tried hard to rescue some of these leaders who had fallen. But if you've ever been involved in this kind of a situation, you know when you're trying to help somebody who's really struggled and navigating all of that, it can be incredibly difficult.
Yeah.
Last year, that congregation did not have the Lord adding to the number daily, but the Lord took away daily. They had 365 people leave the Lord that year. Whose responsibility is that? Who cares about that? Who has time to help with that? That's the state of our brotherhood. My sermons tend to get better towards the end. We got to open our hearts to possibilities. You know, this part's coming, and it's fun when you have something that you know it's going to get better. That's this. This is Evan and Joyce.
This little piggy stayed home. This little piggy had roast beef. This little piggy had none. But this little piggy went...
I watched that over and over and over. Somebody said, why are you so obsessed? I haven't had a kid that I felt responsible for 30 years, so this is awesome. Ephesians chapter 3, let's go there. I know it's heavy, but I think we got to set the stage, and I don't want to be negative, but I want to be honest about the challenges that we face.
Great.
Now, even though we described that, and what I'm telling you, what I just described to you, that's not everything. That's only what I know about. There's a whole bunch of stuff I don't know about. You have stories to tell.
Right.
But when we get into situations where a family of church is really struggling, or people in a family, there are times when a leader of a family of church tries to distance them from everybody else. Because they feel disrespected or unappreciated or whatever, and then there's an agenda. Let's pull it away. But you know, that's not how the church should be. Look here in Ephesians chapter 2. Consequently, you're no longer foreigners or aliens, but fellow citizens with God's people and members of God's household. Why am I reading chapter 2 in verse 19? Let's go to chapter 3 in verse 20. I was zealous, though, at least. Here we go. I was wrong. I had zeal without knowledge. There we go. Verse 20. Now to him who's able to do immeasurably more than all we ask or imagine, according to his power that is worked within us, to him be glory in the church and in Christ Jesus throughout all generations, forever and ever. Amen. I dream about the church being immeasurably more than all we ask or imagine. That's a good challenge for us. What can you imagine? What can you dream of? You know what's crazy? Your dreams limit what God can do in your part of the world. Let me show you something that's encouraging. We got organized in Jamaica. Just as an example, when the church works well together, we were realizing that Hope Worldwide was struggling. Hope was living almost its whole year in debt. And we decided to do something about it. And I'm going to tell you this, we decided we just picked the United States, okay? I just said, let's work with the U.S. brothers. We can do that. I know them. Let's put this plan together. In Jamaica, we talked about this, and we said, let's organize, and let's pull together as churches, and let's advocate for the cause of the poor. We did that a year and a half ago, and last year, this group gave an additional $200,000. To the work of hope for the poor. Not only that, this coming year, it'll go up 200,000 more. But that's what organization can do. Let me tell you about the Mexico City church. Whoa! Humberto is here. Andorini is here. Aaron is here. The brothers are here. The church that I was talking about that was going through such a hard time was the Mexico City church. But those brothers, you know what they did? It was so wild. They said, we need help. But we have trust issues with the Mission Society. And I want to commend the MCA, Mexico and Central America. That Mission Society, you know what they said? They said, we understand that we may be strained. We understand that you might not trust us. So go get help from anybody you want, and we'll pay for it.
Wow.
That was awesome. They said, we understand, we trust. You just go wherever you need to, get the help you need to, and we'll write the check. And those brothers said, wow, thank you so much. That's incredible respect. You know, we pulled together. We went down there. We put together a team. They asked myself to help, Javier Amaya, who's in Boston. We went to Mexico. The first visit was just listening and learning. Just tell us the story. And we spent 3 days. Luis Mendez is there. He was helping. Javier is there. Todd is helping. Rafael is helping. But you know, I've never seen a situation change as quickly as Mexico City. I've never seen it. I said, okay, we listened for a while, and we heard all the hurts. But we also heard the heart. You know, Mexico City has a church. They're a church that has non-staff people leading a ministry of 380 disciples. They lead it after work. The hearts were unbelievable. The fact that they persevered was amazing. But we pulled together. We said, all right, let's get this thing going. We want to establish an eldership. It's a congregation of 4,000 people, no elders. They said, all right, let's go. Todd's helping with that. Louise is helping with that. Mark is helping with that. We said that we've had a lot of financial drama. Let's get a new board together. Let's get some policies in place. Let's be transparent. Let's tell each other what we give. They said, let's do it. You know, the contribution's gone up about 40% just this year. They said, we need a future. Our youngest ministry staff is 39. He could be a delegate soon. That's when you know you're over the hill. You're at the delegate meeting. They said, okay, and we're pulling together. Raphael's helping, and we're pulling together, and they're going to start a school of missions to train up the next generation. They hadn't met together as a church for 8 years. I asked them, are you guys one church? Are you two churches? They have you're 5 churches, 22 regions, 22 churches. I asked all the leaders. No one said one church. Everyone said 22, 5, maybe 2. I said, well, we need to get together. And this is how you know it's an incredible group. We said, let's get together. Now, here's what happened. They said, all right, well, for us to get together, there's only about one place in the whole city that we can meet with 5,000 people. But they said for us to meet there, it costs $30,000. We don't have that money. We're poor. We got regions led 280 people with no full-time staff. You know, it was incredible at that moment because MCA said, well, we can give 15,000. San Diego stepped up, said, we'll give 5. Dallas gave 5. Boston gave 5. And we had a church service. It was the first time in 8 years they'd been together as a church. It was the most inspiring thing. See, I'm preaching about Evan in Mexico too. Javier's translating. They have a brand new, those are big eyes on that board. Okay. They had just built an arena, like a stadium that held 17,000 people. It's 2 years old. A brother worked there, got us half price, that's 30,000. It was the most inspiring service. They appointed evangelists. They're getting ready to start the elder training. The young people were crying. It was incredible. My favorite thing, the music and everything was awesome. The end of the service was the teen ministry. The teen leader's up there, and this little dude, he was about this tall, and he had the heart of a lion, and he was dancing and singing and leading 5,000 people. He'd never been in front of that group before. He was singing with all of his might, but in Mexico, when they get fired up, they start hollering out, encore, okay, more, more. And this little teen, the song finished, the service was over, and the church started cheering, more, more, more. And he looked around because they hadn't rehearsed anything. And he looked at the crowd, and then he talked to the band a minute. He said, one more time. And they did a whole nother song. Everybody screamed. The parents were just crying. It was unbelievable. Whose job was that? We don't have a mechanism for helping a stuck church like that. We got to open up our wallets to change the world. Now here's my challenge, and I only have 5 questions today, so it's going to be a lot easier. My suggestion, my thought, my consideration is that we consider building the church in our neighborhood, and we consider building the brotherhood. By giving 1 penny, as an American, understand, it can be a peso, we can talk about whatever, rupees, we can put all things in there. 1%. So you know what? We get 100 pennies. I'm going to give 1 to the neighborhood. I'm going to give 1 to the brotherhood. Now, many of your families of churches already support the neighborhood. At this moment in Boston, we support 2 pennies to the neighborhood. But we could change our brotherhood with 1 penny. Now, I know the administrators are in here and they say, are you sure? Several of them came up, is that right? Is that enough? Will that do it? That would be a tremendous starting point for addressing some of these needs. Right. You know, I have concerns about the next generation. Yep. That we need to produce hundreds. Yeah. I don't want you to think we got 1 in our church. I'm saying to evangelize the world, to populate our current congregations, we need about 200 or 300. That's just to get 1 person in each place. But we've got to invest. We're here and we're struggling with trust. Let's be honest. Because we don't know each other that well, some of us, and we think, well, but you know, there's real hope because these times together build trust, and many of us know each other for many years. These folks, they never will get together. We need to begin investing in bringing together the next generation so that they can have that fabric of relationship that we enjoy. We need to invest in bringing all the leaders to the leaders' meetings so that when we say the brotherhood gets together, we mean the brotherhood gets together, not the American get together or the rich people get together. I don't have any idea how the money should be spent. I think we have choices on that. But I know there are needs that are going unmet. You know, somebody asked me at this early on last week, what do I want to get out of this? Me, Doug, what do you want? I said, well, I don't know. I want to dream big for the brotherhood. That's what for the fellowship. That's what I want. I'm blessed. I live in Boston. The Boston church has in its mind that we're supposed to be about the global mission. If I say I'm going to Mexico in Boston, the elders say, where are you going? I'm going to Mexico. I'm taking Mark Buckles, one of the elders, with me. We're going to Mexico. They'll say, what for? I say, the church asked for help, and it's an awesome opportunity. They say, praise God, bro, you go for it.
Wow, amen.
That's the heart. They support this. But the idea that we're going to put you in charge of leading the charge for no charge, there's no organization in the world that would do that. That is one of the dumbest ideas in the whole world. I mean, I spent I know it was a joke. You don't know it was a joke. It's catchy though, it's very catchy. I know Val and I are close friends. He gets a lot with the gurus and I don't know, talks brothers into giving $250,000 in structure to the next generation or to any company or any organization. Not really. And so my challenge for us today is to just talk about money, okay? And that's really what we're bringing up. I don't have a big agenda. I don't have to say we have to do this or that. I do think it's a sacrifice if you say to some of the most seasoned leaders, I want you to go over here and serve. I mean, at this moment, what's being asked of me in Mexico? Well, we want you to do all your time and put that energy in and help the brothers. And by the way, can you pay for the service? And no, you don't get anything. We're going to give you applause at one point. That'll be nice. But that gets hard to think through from the Boston church perspective, or the San Antonio church, or your church perspective. Do we actually believe that we shouldn't have any resources to address these kind of needs? You know, Mike Tolliver said something in San Antonio I'll always remember. He said, he was talking about the service teams and everybody doing their work, and he said, if somebody is cutting your grass for free, you don't say, hey, you missed a spot. You don't say that. You don't say that. It's true. You have a different mindset if somebody is volunteering for something. But things that are really important, I don't just hope someone will do. If it's really important, if that's where my heart is, I'm willing to put my treasure there too. How the money is spent, what's the best bang for the buck? I don't know. Let's talk about it. Let's think about it. How can it work? Could we start even if churches aren't ready to contribute? Sure, we can do that. But how should we think about money, not in our church, but in our neighborhood and in our brotherhood? Here are the questions, and I'm going to explain them so that nobody can be confused. Question number one, do you think a zero-budget, volunteer-only approach is the best strategy for our brotherhood global fellowship? Okay? You can take that picture or you'll get it. But that's the question, because that's what we have. We have a zero-budget, volunteer-only approach to global things, and if that's what we want to do, then let's affirm that. And if we don't think that's compelling, then let's not do that. If not, it's not a leading question, if not, which global needs are most compelling to you? I'm not saying that we have to fund the chairman, for example, or fund anybody, or fund whatever. I'm just saying, think about it. Address the needs. How would you allocate resources to strengthen the brotherhood? Number three, do you believe that if given clear explanation and time for implementation, both of those things, clear explanation and time for implementation, that churches in your part of the fellowship would be open to supporting, quote, brotherhood efforts? Now I want to say something here. This applies to everybody, whether you're in an affluent country or a less affluent country. And it's not about the money, it's about the camaraderie. It's that Macedonian principle that, I'll tell you, if the brothers in Africa say we're behind it, that has an impact in Connecticut. They think, the brothers from Lagos are helping? Sign me up. I mean, that's an important principle. But I don't know what the appetite is. I don't know what your fellowship, what your area is. But that's a question that would be good for us to understand as we move forward. If resources become available, what would be the best process for deciding how to allocate those funds? I believe resources will come available. How should we decide how to handle it? We should talk about that process. Because then we'll say, okay, we can explain to everybody, here's how those decisions are made. Okay, so that's a fourth question. And the fifth question, if resources become available, what would be the best process for evaluating how effectively the money was spent after the fact? Because I think that's very important as well. And so we're not talking about what anybody has to do, but we're talking about how to think about this as a global fellowship. I hope that this has stimulated your thoughts. I've tried to save you some time. We're going to be able to end early, and you only have 5 questions, okay? So that may help us. But this is a time to explore, what do we think about how best to arrange this? I know that we have to build trust. I know that we're not dealing with a homogeneous situation. We have all kinds of different perspectives. But these are the questions for us to consider. Any other things, Ed? All right, thanks for your time, guys. Love you. We'll see you soon. All right.